All right, so next we have Doug Gordon. And Doug is a 4 times award-winning coach, consultant, and corporate trainer. He's a professional speaker and author. He's also a radio presenter in Dublin City FM. He spent 21 years in investment world, working his way up from customer services to board director and head of sales and marketing for Ireland's biggest funds manager. Since having a near-death experience, he's now pivoted across to become a coach, consultant, and speaker. He has so many LinkedIn recommendations showcasing his results with clients. He has been in the national press for success in investment world. Please welcome Doug Gordon.
Thanks, Gosha. I'll send you the money for that later on, for saying such nice things. Lovely to see everybody. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming this evening. It's funny, when you get to that age, when you're about 50, you don't know whether to put your glasses on or off, because I can see at the back, then I can't see down here and going back and forth. So I have to apologize in advance for this and this and this and this all the way through. And that's the first thing. My first question, though, for all of you that I'd love to ask is, how many people here are in sales? How many people here are in sales? And put a yes in the chat box if you're in sales, if you're listening online as well. Two, right. Just to let you know, everybody, you're all in flipping sales, let's face it. We even start as a salesperson when we're children. How many people here are children? Aren't they the best bloody salespeople you could possibly imagine? Daddy, can I have a lollipop, please? No. Oh, please, please, please. And eventually you go, for fuck's sake, all right, you can have the lollipop. They're the best salespeople. And why? Because they're consistent, they're persistent, and they never, ever give up. So that's what sales is all about. Obviously, there's other things in terms about sales. One of the things I always say, it's very important to have good energy. And let's get a bit of energy going, because I know you've been sitting here listening intently to the very intellectual man over here, who I have to say did a fantastic presentation in terms of Stefan. But let's get a bit of energy going. I'm sure there's a few of you here who don't know everybody here. So if I can ask you all to stand up, and those of you who are listening at home, if you can stand up as well. And when you're listening at home, I want you to go in the mirror. I want you to go in the mirror and look at me and go, I am amazing. Yeah. And for all you guys, I'd like you to introduce yourself to someone and go, hi, you're amazing. Go for it. Right, ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats, because I'm sure the people at home are kind of going, oh, God, I'm not going to do it. So it's funny, when we arrived here, it reminded me of one of the first ever big presentations I did on sales in Ireland. And there's a guy, Jack Daly. Anybody know Jack Daly? Anybody? Probably a few people anyway. So Jack Daly spoke at the Pendulum Summit here in Ireland back in 2018. And when he was speaking in front of 7,000 people. And literally, the guy's wife had just died. So literally the month before, he came over here still. He did the most amazing presentation. I have to say, it was absolutely fantastic. But he then asked me, because obviously being a professional speaker, we got to know each other. He came on the radio show. Anybody you don't know, I have a radio show. Most of you probably do know. It's on 103.2 Dublin City FM. It's called Inspirational People, Inspirational Stories. I have someone at the back here who's actually been on the show, Kieran. Anyone don't know Kieran? Kieran Hoy, amazing guy, I have to say. Table for One is his business. And he's been looking for funding. So anyone here that wants to fund an amazing business, it's brilliant. So anyway, another story. But anyway, Jack Daly asked me to speak. And he brought something like 250, 300 people in to the Clayton Hotel at the time. And I arrived up with my PowerPoint, really keen, corporate guy, turned up my PowerPoint, everything like that. And he looked at me, took one look at me and he said, Doug, is that your PowerPoint? And I said, yeah, of course. He said, for fuck's sake, Doug, do you know it? And I said, yeah. He said, well, you don't need your PowerPoint. I don't use PowerPoint in my particular presentations. And at that point, I needed to go to the toilet pretty rapidly. Anyway, I went back out and I went, oh, got one of these straight off, ran up to the reception, got one of these, came back down, went into a little room so nobody could see me, and literally scribbled everything that I had on my slides onto one of these, one after the other, after the other, after. I came back feeling happy with myself, sat there, and Jack came up to me. It was quite early, it was like 7 o'clock in the morning. He goes, Doug, have you just put all your slides from there onto there? And I said, maybe. I said, come on. And he sat there looking through. And I was going, okay. He goes, do you know this? And I said, well, of course I do. I said, for fuck's sake. And he threw it away behind him and he said, do it without it. And I'm sitting there really bricking myself then. I had to go to the toilet again at that point. Anyway, and I was supposed to be on at 9:30. Jack got up and started speaking. This guy's spoken all over the world. He gets paid like 25, 30,000 every single time he speaks. And he's a fantastic speaker. If you don't know him, he's actually testimony in my upcoming book. And he's a really, really good guy. Anyway, so eventually I sit down, started at 9 o'clock. I'm waiting for 9:30. And suddenly I realized he started talking about a lot of the stuff that was on my particular presentation. And I'm going, hold on a minute. He's just covered that bit. He's just covered that bit. He's just, oh my God, he's going through my whole presentation. And I really was sitting there at that point kind of thinking, I need another P now. I need another P now. And I actually did get up a couple of times in front of these 250 people, running to the loo, running back. And at that point, I'm thinking, holy, what am I going to do now? Anyway, I got back and he covered the entire presentation. And at that point, instead of having to talk about the theory and the things that I'd done in sales that made me successful, I actually had to use examples. So it taught me to think on my feet. And it was one of the greatest lessons I ever had, although afterwards I went up to him and told him he was an absolute wanker. And he winked at me and said, I bet you that'll help you in the future. And I have to say it really, really has. Because when you've done that and when you practice a lot, and one of the best things in terms of presentation skills is to practice and practice and practice. And those of you who are online, I'm sure a lot of you on there are fantastic speakers, by the way, guys, because there's so many that I know that are online who are listening or on Clubhouse, and I heard you speak and you're amazing. So a massive shout out to all of you guys out there as well. So obviously talking about sales today and talking about how we grow a business, I'm going to be talking about different things. One in the corporate world, and basically I was in the Times and the Independent, which are, for those of you over in America, there are national newspapers over here in Ireland and England. And when I was in those, it was because I grew an asset management business from 50 million per annum sales to 1.75 billion. And it's all documented. It's not bullshit. There's a lot of coaches out there that tell you, I'll make you a $7 billion coach or something like that. But no, it was actually in the newspapers. So anyway, so I'll talk a little bit about how I did that. And I'll give you a couple of examples of that as well. I'm also going to talk about how I got into the likes of Dell, Facebook, Salesforce. And I'll use Dell as an example in terms of how I approached the president of Dell and how I got in and the actual types of things I utilize that you might be able to utilize to be able to get into multinationals as well. Then I've got a business in a box idea to help you all in terms of getting passive income on the side, which I'll give you that as well. And then I'll also tell you about the radio show, because the radio show has gone from 0 to 346,000 live listeners. And I've got some amazing guests on there. I've got maybe 25 New York Times bestsellers. I've had, and some of them are now testimonies in my book because we become friends with them. I've had over in Ireland, so the Irish people that you'll know, Stuart Lancaster, the Leinster coach. I'm sure you know him. Jamie Hayslip, who used to be the Ireland international captain for rugby as well. Brian Fenton, who's the GAA player who plays for Dublin as well. Going back to what I'll be talking about today, I'm going to try and talk about a little bit how you can make sales and try and use ideas and concepts that you can utilize in your business regardless of what they are. I do a lot of presentation skills training, helping people as well. So the other thing I've done, because of the background that I've been in, I can help people in terms of putting decks together in terms of pitching your own business, or if you're pitching for business or you're pitching for funding or anything like that, I help people in terms of that. I get probably about 20 decks a week, and I've helped people in this room actually as well. Anyway, so how do we make sales in business? Well, I have an acronym for MAKE it happen. Actually, you can use this MAKE acronym for anything. And the MAKE acronym is mindset, actions, knowledge, and energy. And actually, whether it's in sales or giving your partner an orgasm, let's face it, if you have the right mindset in terms of being positive, you take the right actions in terms of knowing, have the right understanding of their anatomy, and you have lots of positive energy, you never know what could happen. Anyway, just to tell you all, Ghosh is actually my partner, so she's in the room. But anyway, she's heard me say this before, so she doesn't mind when I'm speaking. So getting back to the MAKE acronym, so mindset. Why is mindset so important? We talk about it all the time. It's so important in sales because if you have a look, say, there was a Forbes magazine, and as we know, Stefan is a Forbes business advisor. And in Forbes, they actually showed an article showing that happier people, just in their staff, are 37% more productive, happier salespeople, in fact. And in fact, if you look in Fortune magazine, there was another article showing the top 100 places to work for in terms of the happy factor. It showed between 1997 and 2004, the average annualized stock market returns were around 15%. And those outside of those top 100 only average annualized around 5%. It's a massive difference. And actually, being a stock market guy, for those of you who don't know, I'm actually a trained fund manager and certified with the government, not this bullshit stuff, and also an investment advisor as well. And I actually looked into this. And I had a look into the analysis of the stock market over the last, so it works for both the S&P, but also the FTSE 100 as well. And if you have a look the day before Independence Day, the day before Thanksgiving, the day before Easter, and the last 2 weeks of the year in terms of the Santa rally, the stock market actually goes up 85% of the time. Why is that? Anybody? Yeah, but it's also positive people produce positive results. Let's face it, the day before you're on holiday, going, fantastic, here we go, holiday tomorrow. It's amazing, isn't it? How many people, right? Sometimes you might have been, how many people have been in a dead-end job in the past, right, where you didn't enjoy it? Maybe? Any, put a yes in the chat box as well. Anybody, you know, being in that dead-end job? I'm sure you have been, right? We've all had some dead-end job where the alarm goes off in the morning and beep, 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 snooze, beep, beep, and eventually you drag yourself out of bed. You drag yourself into the office and look at the screen going, what the bleep am I doing here all day? And yet, I'm sure when you be going on holiday, you end up springing out of bed, spring into a taxi, spring into the airplane, spring into the swimming pool with loads of energy because you're aligned to something you love doing. And that's why it's so important to get into that right mindset. And if you're starting up a business, before you start the business, make sure you're aligned to what you're doing. So if you want to find your purpose, your inspiration, or whatever it might is, I always say, write down 5 things that you love doing, 5 things you're good at doing, and 5 things you can add value to people in some way or form. Find a match, go out there and do it. You're probably doing something you love. And it's a good start. Because when you have something that you love, you have lots of vibrant energy. Another one of my acronyms. So if you can find really what your true inspiration is, you'll end up being better at it. You'll work better at it, and you'll have more energy when you're doing it as well. So it's so important to find that. But if you're in a dead-end job, how many people here are doing your job because they're paying the bills and they can't get out of it? Anybody? No? Oh, a couple. Okay, there we go. I'm sure there's a few online as well. You can put a tick in the box, put a yes if you are in the box as well. Although I know most of the people online, they're all entrepreneurs, so they're probably doing something they love. But anyway, if you are in that, I actually had a guy who worked for me at Davy. So Davy, for those of you who don't know, obviously he's one of the top stockbrokers. I was head of sales and marketing for there. And this guy came up to me and he said to me, he was working for me. And I said, Doug, I'm fed up. He said, every single day, people just call me up and complain about the computers not working and everything like that. I don't want to do it anymore. And I said, well, why don't you reframe what you do? Because what we're actually doing is we're making sure that granny or grandpa give more to their children, give more to their grandchildren, buy a better retirement home, stock up on Viagra if they're into that kind of thing, whatever. So every single time that you solve one of those IT-oriented issues, you're enabling them to be able, or enabling us to be able to do better valuations, better online research, better online deals, and give a better overall result for that end granny or grandpa. So if you can have a look at the energetics of even the small tasks that you do and how they interlink to actually adding value to somebody in some way or form, then you'll get a sense of meaning in terms of what you do. Because you know every single time you get out of bed, even if you're doing administration, you're helping someone in some way or form. The last part in terms of purpose or inspiration is just to maybe, some of us have probably had some crap happen in our lives. I've had a death experience, I've had a marriage breakdown, everything like that. I actually had 2 operations that went wrong. And during that time period, it was pretty crap, right? And I'm sure a lot of you have had those. Anybody else some crap in their life? Yeah, pretty much everybody. Yes. Let's face it. A few yeses on the computer. So yeah, I can see yes, no, yes. Okay, fantastic. So we all have, right? We've all had some crap happen in our lives. So why not turn your mess into a message and give it meaning in some way or form? And that's what I've done. And that's why I pivoted and moved out doing the corporate world, where I was working, hedge funds and mutual funds, selling those, to now doing corporate training, but also doing a lot of coaching, consulting, and speaking like this, and have the radio show as well. And actually I do a bit of healing as well. There's a couple of people in here I've done some healing on as well. So, and actually, while we're on that mess into a message, I'm going to change into another thing that I promised I'd tell you about. I have a business in the box idea. And all of you have some experience or something that you could turn into a course. Whatever it is, let's just say it was a relationship breakdown or a divorce, or you're a single dad like me in terms of, you don't have the children with you or something like that. And you have experience of something that you can utilize to help other people in some way or form. Everybody have that? Everybody have something? Well, you might be a footballer, right? Soccer player, better kick the ball better than anybody else. You could put a course up about that. I don't know. Whatever, so we all have something, right? So based on that premise, whatever it is, take a PowerPoint presentation, even though I say don't use PowerPoint on their own, but take a PowerPoint presentation and put it together with something of all the ideas for, say, 3 to 4 hour presentation. Quite simple, whatever it is. Even if you're in business, there was one lady that I was working with, and she made beautiful jewelry for Middle Eastern, very, very rich people in Dubai. And she was making a decent money, but not that good. And I said, well, why don't you teach people online how you do it? Because she was sourcing the gold, sourcing the diamonds, putting it together and making something quite unique for those people. So I said, why don't you put a course together to show them that? So she did 3 hours, 3.5 hour course. She also then took the transcript from that and turned it into a booklet. But actually, if yours is good enough, you could actually take the transcript and turn it into an actual book. There's Otter. Who's used Otter? Anybody use Otter? It's very good, actually. So Otter, actually, you can voice into, and it's probably one of the most accurate things, the AI, and get the AI system on it actually helps in terms of learning about your voice, so you can get better and better every single time. So by utilizing Otter, you could actually transcribe, or you've got the video as well, because you want to video yourself. So you go down to a local place like this, we're recording this. You could do it here, for example, quite simply. And that way you've got a 3.5 hour course, bottom of the funnel, that you can then have as passive income. And then you could simply market that using Facebook ads or Google ads, which are relatively inexpensive. Or if you want to put loads of flyers around to all your friends and all that kind of stuff, who knows, whatever. We all have WhatsApp groups as well. So that's one way, that's the bottom of the funnel. The next thing is obviously there's Facebook groups. There is, you can set up some kind of group online as well. Instead of having to use a full-on website, you could just use a landing page. And then every week they come onto the landing page, you do a video. And you get a load of people in, maybe do a subscription, maybe $7 or $27 or whatever you think you're worth at that point in time. And bring people in. And while they're there, then get them to ask, give me 3 questions. Give me 3 questions. And just answer those questions on a weekly basis. Rotate the people, rotate the questions. Those questions will probably add value to other people in some way or form. Then you've got a next level in the business in terms of a subscription-based group of some sort. Then start a podcast up. Exactly like, so I've got the radio show. I've interviewed, I think, 300 people now, some amazing people. I mean, some of them you'll know. So if you've everybody seen The Secret film? Anybody seen The Secret film? Yeah, a few people have. So John DeMartini, Jack Canfield, Lisa Nichols, they've all been on my show loads of times. So I could then start up a mastermind group, right? I could bring you guys here. There's some very, very successful people in this room now and online as well. I know you guys are very successful as well. So I could then start up a mastermind group and bring these people in, charge for the year 5, 10, 20 grand, 30 grand, maybe someone charge 30 grand for this. If it's the right kind of people, I was at the Institute of Directors for India last week, and I was speaking as the main keynote speaker and also the MC for the day. And, we had the governor of Kashmir there. We had the CEO of Cobra Beers, which is obviously, if everybody doesn't know, in America, it's one of the biggest beers in every single Indian we've ever been in, both the UK and Ireland and everything like that. And they're obviously the biggest beer in India as well, and probably in Asia as well. So there's some really great people. So you get those kind of people, right? So you network with those. I'm sure a few of you are quite, successful people. You think, I want to be part of that network. So you got a mastermind group going, and then you can bring in I could bring in my radio guests to add value to you guys as my mastermind group. You get one-on-one time with them. You can ask them a few questions. You can connect with them. And the person who's coming in and speaking, so say if it's John DeMartini or Lisa Nichols, their added value is they can sell all their wares to you guys as well. So it's win-win all around. So if you think about it, right, you set up that first course, you've got the booklet or the book, passive income coming through. Once you've done it, you just need a social media person. Don't have to pay that much. I have one in India. She charged $15 an hour. It's pretty good. Get her to do that for me. Then you have the social media group or the kind of Facebook group. Maybe do an hour or 2 a week on that. Mastermind might take a couple of hours to prepare, a couple of hours doing it. Job done, less than 10 hours. You can make £1 million a year if you're clever about it. So there's a business in a box idea that might just help you in your own startup to help you to have passive income on the side in some way or form. Now, getting back to the MakeCat group. So going back to the mindset thing and everything like that, obviously in terms of mindset, every single day, we need to be turning up into the best possible state. And when I was in the corporate world and when I'm now, when I'd be waking up, I'd be trying to make sure that I'm in the best possible state. So we all know, wake up with gratitude, be grateful for what you have, and then you receive more. Also do your meditation, do your exercise, eat well, all that kind of stuff. We all know that kind of stuff. And those are in Clubhouse, we talk about that all the time, guys. So anyway, so once you've got yourself in the best possible state, the next thing to do is obviously put an action plan in place. And that's where the A comes in. And I don't know about how many people here are in the corporate world or used to work in the corporate world. Yeah, there's a few here. Yeah. How many people here have put a business plan in place and you've given it to your boss and it's never come out again until bonus time at the end of the year? Anybody? Yeah. Yeah, quite a few people. Yeah. Normally, and I used to have to say that. I used to do that as well. I used to get my staff come in and we go, shit, the business plan, where was that? Okay, and we take it out and go, okay, you did that, you didn't do that, you did that. Sorry, this is what we're going to have to give you this year, whatever. What a waste of time. If you're doing a business plan in place, it needs to be a workbook. You need targets in place, especially in sales and for a business as well, for the year, yes, but also for the quarter, for the month, the week, and then put daily processes and procedures and systems in place to enable you to get towards those targets more easily. And in the spiritual context, sit there and meditate and visualize it every day. Put the energetic connection in to all the tasks that you've got to do during the day and make sure you get them done. And in terms of that business plan as well, make sure you carry it around with you, make sure you have it there to look at, and make sure you update it all the time as a workbook as well. The next part of that is obviously client mapping. I mean, most people, sometimes when they start in sales, they do a scattergun approach, just try and, meet as many people as possible and all that kind of stuff. But if you can really target your right avatar and the right person, it can really help you and enable you to make more money in less time with less stress. So it's very important to make sure that you have the right client avatar in place as well. And actually, guys, we're in Dublin now. If you're going into Dublin, the centre of Dublin, to buy yourself a coffee, why go into Starbucks or Costa Coffee or anything like that? Why not go into the Shelburne or the Westbury or something like that? Sit in the lounge, pay the extra £5, and you never know who you could be sitting next to if you're engaging them in conversation. I've done that. I've met politicians, I've met sports stars, and amazing people. And also, if you're traveling, say, either on holiday or even over to business, I used to on London quite often, I would go business class, not because I'm tall, as you can see, but because you never know who you're sitting next to. And you potentially, for an hour, or even if you're going over to America, 5 hours, you could be sitting next to, you could be your next best friend, or a partner in business, or a potential client. And I actually sat next to the guy who is the CEO of Game On Media. We got chatting. He then came to one of my events, and then he brought me into Game On Media and paid me a lot of money to speak to his people for a couple of hours. So you never know, putting yourself in the right place at the right time, you can get very different results. And actually, I've got a great story that just to highlight that. So this is obviously a makeup story, but it's a bit of fun that you can utilize yourself for your own business. There's a young man, and he was walking down the coast of Galway, and he looked over the cliff edge and he saw 3 amazing, beautiful stones. And he picked them up, brought them home, showed to his dad, and he said, "Dad, look at these stones, I found them, they're incredible. What will I do with them?" And his dad says, "I'll tell you what, take the first stone, son, go down to the local market on Saturday, make a little beautiful stand, put the stone on there, make it look pretty. If anybody comes up and wants to buy it, don't say anything, just show them the peace sign and nothing else." So goes down to the market, puts the stone down, makes it look pretty. And this lady goes up and goes, "Wow, what a beautiful stone. How much do you want for it?" €2. Oh, thank you very much. And off she goes back home, and he's delighted. She's delighted. He goes back to his dad. He goes, "Dad, I got €2 for that stone. What will I do with the next one?" He says, "Well, I'll tell you what, son, the diamond merchant, he sells precious stones. Why don't you go down to him, show him the stone? If he wants to buy it, do exactly the same thing." So he goes down to the diamond merchant, shows him the stone. Diamond merchant goes, "Wow, what a beautiful stone. How much do you want for it?" €200. Deal, done. Thanks very much. And he goes back to his dad, goes, "Wow, I've got €200 for that stone. What will I do with the last one?" So I'll tell you what, son, why don't you go down to the National History Museum in Dublin, go into the Precious Stone Farm, find the professor, show him the stone. If he wants to buy it, show him the peace sign. He goes up, goes to the professor, shows the professor goes, "Wow, that is one beautiful stone. How much do you want for it?" €2,000. Deal, done. Thanks very much. And he goes back to his dad, goes, "Dad, this is incredible. What does this mean?" His dad goes, "Well, don't you know, son? If you value what you have to offer and hang around with the right people, you get very different results." So always target the right people and you get different results. When I was in the investment world, I would use exactly the same presentation, say for a US equity fund. And I go in and speak to a financial advisor, maybe get £1 million. I go and speak to a stockbroker, £5 million. I go and speak to an asset manager, £10 million. And one institutional pension fund manager in one deal gave me £285 million. It just shows you, if you hang around with the right people, you can get very different results. So target. The last part of the action side of the MAKE acronym is about activity planning. And what I used to tell my staff, and I used to do this myself, is I used to say, put a schedule in place for what you're going to do, get your admin in the morning, get out of the way. Because how many people here enjoy admin? I'm joking. I don't enjoy admin. How many people online enjoy admin? Probably nobody, right? So nobody really likes doing their admin. So get the admin out of the way in the morning, and then you can do your fun stuff in the afternoon. And if you're seeing clients face to face, Optimize your time. So have your main client of the day at lunchtime, and then put 2 individual meetings either side of that geographically to optimize your time out of the office. And then when you're speaking to those 3 clients, you're going to be talking about markets, the economy, and also your product, if it's like me in terms of funds. And that way you get into that flow state and you feel more confident about yourself. And when you get back, then you can make your sales calls. So when you get back, then you can call people. And when you pick up the phone, you'll know you've been talking about things. You'll be up to date in the markets, up to date the gossip in the market and everything like that. And then you'll be able to add more value to the people as well. And whenever you're calling people, any people whatsoever, I would highly suggest just aim for the meeting. Don't aim to sell on the phone. Because remember, if you're sitting there and you get a call and you're in the middle of something and someone starts, oh, I've got this really good product. You're like, sorry, I'm busy. So if you flip it on its head, why would you want to interrupt somebody when they're in the middle of their day? Arrange a meeting as quickly as possible so that you can meet them face to face or on a Zoom call, obviously what a lot of us do these days, so that you can read their energy, so they can feel your energy, so that you can connect on the heart level. Before I came on stage here, when I was sitting over there, before I came on, I put my hand on my heart and very quietly said, I am Doug Gordon, I am my heart. Please let me connect with the hearts of the audience in order to bless rather than press and add as much value. Because what I'm doing there is I'm getting myself out of my head self into my heart self to connect with your heart selves to add as much value. Because if I try to impress, then I might make mistakes because I'll be thinking, oh, I've got to say this, I've got to say that. But if I'm just trying to bless, it's very different energy. And it's the same when you're in sales. It's the same in business. When you go into a business meeting, don't try and sell to them. Try and make them the best long-term friend. Some of my friends on Facebook I've known for 20 years and they're investment clients. The CIO of UBS Private Banking, one of the biggest banks in the world. He's one of my friends on Facebook for that exact reason. So really get to know the person, because people buy people, as we know. How many people have bought from someone they don't like? Nobody, right? Exactly. How many people would always buy if they really like the person, right? Okay, yeah. And when you're going in, and when you're obviously, sometimes you're going in as the new provider, the new manufacturer, or the new service provider. And quite often they'll always already have somebody in place. So never, ever, ever knock the competition. So what I would say, for example, in the investment world, when I was going in, I'd always say, okay, and I've done my research. Normally, make sure you do your research online. I've had a look at their portfolios online, which they normally showcase, especially if it's funds. And I'll say, okay, you've got this particular fund online. It's amazing. I have to say, what a great choice. Let's say it was the Invesco fund or something like that. I would say, I really like Neil Woodford is his name, the guy who used to manage the fund. Really like Neil Woodford. He's a fantastic fund manager. I can see why you bought him by this, that, and the other. By the way, just in case he retires, just in case he moves company, just in case he kind of takes a step back, we've got a really, really good fund that can be a backup for your amazing choice. And that way, you're not pushing against any of their choices that they have made in the past. You're actually supporting their choice, saying how great they are, and then you're just giving them an alternative. And things happen, right? People leave. Times change. And people retire, so it gives you an opportunity then without really knocking them as well. And actually, when you're in those meetings, quite often what I would do, when I was in the meeting there, I'd have my pad and pen, and I'd sit there and I'd go, okay, so what's important to you in terms of your fund? And they go, performance, obviously, past performance, okay? Anything else? Consistency of performance, good team, good team. Good organization that's well financially backed, good. Fantastic. And obviously a good salesperson, because I don't want to deal with a boring fucker. Okay, that's me. And then when you've done all that, whatever it is with your particular side of things, and you've got all that list down, then read it back to them, say, and so they can visually see it. It's a great NLP trick. So, okay, so obviously I've told you about my fund, and we're the top performing fund in this particular sector. We've got very consistent performance. So top performing fund, and do a tick in front of them. And we're very consistent in our discrete performance, do a tick in front of them. And then, yeah, we've got great people. Obviously, I've said we've got a team, but also we've got a backup team of about 50 people in terms of our investment person. Great, that's fantastic, and everything like that. So it gives you a big advantage then of straight away, the person doesn't even see it, but actually what you're actually doing is you're using an NLP technique where they're saying, oh, God, stick it again, oh, stick it again, oh, stick it again. And by the end of it, you don't even need to close the sale because you've already closed it visually in front of them. And you say, right, it looks like I've got everything that you need actually here. And they go, yeah, you have. Wow. And then they buy the product. So that's something you can really do. And I'm just going to give you an example. That was my investment side, just on the Dell side. So Angus Hegarty, great guy, if you don't know him, he's the president of Dell. And Angus and I were connected on LinkedIn. And he just got promoted, one of these fake promotions, you know, but he was promoted to looking after 150 countries to 182 or something like that. But it was fabulous, you know, and he's a great guy. I've seen him speak and all that kind of stuff. And I sent him a little email on LinkedIn, which is fantastic. You know, everybody use LinkedIn here? Yeah, yeah, great. Everybody use LinkedIn recommendations here to showcase your business? Yeah. If you don't do that, look, I tell you something actually on LinkedIn recommendations, right? How many people here have recommendations for your own self or testimonies on your website? Pretty much everybody, or your company does, right? Why not ask your clients to give you a LinkedIn recommendation and then take that LinkedIn recommendation and put it on your website? So you're doubling up for one, but two, they can then self-check it themselves. So they can actually go in and have a look. Okay, so Kieran Hockey at the back there, and table for one, as I was saying earlier, now promoting Kieran's business. Kieran has given me a LinkedIn recommendation because he saw me present at the London Investment Conference, which was a venture capital summit. I was the main keynote speaker there, opened up the thing, and we got to know each other there. And he gave me a very nice recommendation for my speech there as well. So thank you, by the way, Kieran. We become friends too, as well. It's the great thing about when you meet people at these events. Networking is the best thing, and your network is, sorry, your network. Net worth is your network. So, and actually, it's not just about your network as well. It's your network's network. Because remember, if you walk into a restaurant, you never know, that waiter could be best friends with someone really important. So make sure you treat everybody in the best possible way. My network, I used to be in the investment world, so I know loads of people in terms of wealth managers who I've wined, dined, golf with, got absolutely langered with, have great fun with, and we really know each other and we're like really good friends. And some of them look after Richard Branson, the Sultan of Brunei, Roman Abramovich, and a lot of other very, very rich people as well. So my network's network is probably the best in the world. So always consider not just them, but also the other people as well. And in terms of, you know, actions as well, I would always say as well, when you're calling someone like CEO, that's where the exception is, because I did say earlier on, after you get back, you can call people in the afternoon. And also the other thing about afternoon calling is people are going home at 5 or 6 o'clock. So they're a bit more receptive because they're a bit happier because they're almost going home. But on top of that, if you're calling a CEO or anything like that, call them either 7:30 in the morning before their team comes in or after 6 o'clock. Because I can tell you something, when I had a team in Davy and a team for Columbia Threadneedle, I didn't have time to take sales calls, but I did after then, and I did. And I was always interested to see their sales technique. So if you call the right people. And the other thing is as well, when you're trying to get into a large multinational business, don't go in at the HR level. Always try and go in as someone at the top. Try and find someone that, you know, speak to your peers, speak to someone in the industry that's doing yourself, make friends with the people who are consultants, coaches, speakers, whatever, and ask them, look, I know you do this in Microsoft. I don't do that. I do this. We could collaborate, work together. Can you tell me who the person is to speak within Microsoft? And then they will, because they want to collaborate. Because if they can offer something, you say, look, you know, I'm collaborating with another associate consultant of mine. He's got some great stuff. I've got some great stuff. We're working together. And it actually looks for an associate consultancy basis. It helps a lot as well, because a lot of these big corporations now, they don't really want to deal at giving out, you know, payment to this coast, that coast, this consultant, and so on. They want to be able to give it to one source. So if you can create lots of associate consultancy bases with, so I, for example, could make all of you my associate consultants. You could make all of them associate consultants, and so on. So we all could have our own institutions. And if, say, Kieran, I'm picking on, or Chad or Lawrence, they get a deal, then they take 20% cut of all our consultancy that we do for that particular client. So it's about thinking outside the box, collaborating with people. Where there's competition, there's a sense of lack, going for the same thing. Where there's collaboration, you can work together to create new things from nothing, which is really cool. So what else? Well, look, in terms of knowledge, which is the next part. Oh, sorry, I just want to finish one thing actually on the Dell thing. I'm going from one to one. So Dell, actually, and people new to Kieran. Kieran actually used to work for Dell as well. And actually, when I went into Dell to speak to Angus, I first did a lot of research on him. So I found out about the man behind the business. Obviously, I knew about Dell, but I want to find out the person I was speaking to. And I suggest you do this in interviews as well. Find out the people, what they're like, what they're interested in. So, for example, I realized that he was the president of the American Chamber of Commerce in Europe. And I've spoken at the Tanzanian Chamber of Commerce, the London Chamber of Commerce, Dublin Chamber of Commerce, Galway Chamber of Commerce, and many others as well. So I had a connection. I also saw that he was on the Special Olympics Committee for Ireland. And I'm an ambassador of the Wooden Spoon charity, which is a charity that helps mentally and physically handicapped children. So again, I was able to go there. So when I walked in, first thing I did, I actually went in and I saw a picture of him on the wall, and I was going in with my blazer undone, and I saw him in the picture was blazed up. So I quickly did that as well, because mirroring is very important. The other thing as well, I made sure that I was early. So I chatted to the receptionist. So next time I went there, and this is very important, she would then know a little bit about me. And she'd go, oh, hi, Doug, how are you? Because I used to do this all the time when I was in the investment world. It's brilliant. I'd go into someone like Rathbones or Investec, one of the big stockbrokers in the UK, and I knew the receptionist so well. I'd turn up half an hour early. I'd be seeing someone for lunch, say. So I turn up half an hour early. I'd sit there, and people were going out for cigarettes. They're going out for sandwiches. They were going out for walks, a pressure for there. And I would have got the fund on the panel, obviously, with the research guys, but I still have to sell to all the private client fund managers who are actually going to buy that fund on the panel. And literally, they'd be walking back and forth, and they go, "Oh, hi, Doug, how's it going?" You know, or the receptions that sometimes would sometimes go, "Oh, sorry, Bob. I know you're the CEO, but have you met Doug?" So it's a really important thing to make sure you treat everybody very kindly. And the receptionist is probably the most important person in a business who is not you're not actually meeting, because she knows everybody. So I always used to make sure that I knew all the secretaries, all those people try and block you, make friends with them first, and then that way you can really add a lot of value to your business as well. So anyway, I went in, met with Angus as we went through the doors. I said, wow, the energy in here was brilliant. And it genuinely was. And we went into the coffee shop. He was going to bring me just there, but he actually, because I said to him, I said, by the way, I hear you're the president of American Chamber of Commerce. If I can help you in this and give you a free talk, if I work for Dell, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, thanks. So he sees, once I've done my research, and two, I'm showing an interest in him, offering him something as well. And then secondly, I said to him, I said, by the way, we have very similar charity that we follow. If I can collaborate with you to help in any way or form, I'd be delighted to as well. So I'm going something into his heart as well, something that really makes it. So at that point, he took me up to his room instead of actually downstairs. And while we were there, it was interesting. How many people here have had salespeople come into them? Yeah. And how many people, when those salespeople, they started just blabbing away and you switched off? Anybody? Yeah, exactly. Most of us. So what I really suggest you do, instead of going straight into it, and what I did with Angus, I said, Angus, is it okay if I tell you a little about my business? It's such a simple thing. But he goes, yes. And automatically his subconscious is switched on. Automatically he's listening to me. Automatically I've got permission to sell. So I can start selling, and he's actually going to listen. So important thing to do. It's such a simple thing, but so important. Anyway, never once then did I tell him how good my company was, how good my consultants were, or how good I was. I just brought my computer up and showed him LinkedIn recommendations. So I had one from Leo McCann, who's the CEO of Ocugo, which is the biggest software support company in the optical lens industry. They're based in Blanchardstown here. And Leo had taken me in to do a big conference for his whole, they had about 400 people there. So he'd taken me in to do that conference. And at the same time, he brought me in as his coach. I've been coaching him for like 5 years now. He's my longest-standing client. We're great friends. He actually, right, I do business coaching with him, but Leo also, because of healing, Leo actually said to me, he said, Doug, I don't know if you knew, but that healing you did with me, I did the Dublin Marathon, you've actually healed my legs. And he did it recently, he did the Dublin Marathon a couple of weeks ago, and he did less than 4 hours. So it's fantastic. I'm being told that I'm going over time, so I'm going to hurry up now quickly. So, so just to finish off, then I thrown me. Anyway, so I went in, showcased him other people's results, and then he said, definitely you're in. I walked down, went around the corner, got straight on the email, and said to me, thank you so much for your time. If you're interested in my coaching, I'd be so grateful to work with you. And he came back to me, this time that's like 1,000 people like that. A lot of people, there's one down from Michael down, two down from Michael down. And he said, like, delights me. He sees the wrong HR people in the rest of history, and they've been in there. And actually, when I'm LinkedIn, you see them. I'm actually the CIO there. There's a LinkedIn recommendation. So the reason why I did that, the reason why I'm telling you that, follow getting the enemy in it. So these elements, people get the power very quickly, even if you but the knowledge you know, the knowledge you have, very great. Aware of the situation, aware of the mind, aware of the there is a awareness in terms of understanding in our own business, the different entities in that, and we have different perspectives and angles. So we have to understand that ask questions rather than making assumptions about other people, the way they see things and receive things as well. Because Tom, for example, might be listening to me and hearing one thing, and Lawrence might be hearing something completely different because of the angles and backgrounds that come from. So that's why diversity of thinking is such a wonderful thing, because we get different perspectives on the problems to get better solutions, the answers. So yes, so knowledge is very important. And finally, energy. I've got loads more, but I've run over time. I apologize. So in terms of energy, the most important thing to do is get yourself in the best energetic state. So when you I'm going to finish up with how you can get yourself into the highest state of energetic state. So I have another acronym, just because you know I love my acronyms, and it's GLEAM. GLEAM your light. I always say what you go through, you grow through to glow through. So why not gleam your inner light in every single meeting with every single person that you ever meet? So G, obviously, if you can spell, G starts with gratitude, which I talked about earlier on. Like I said, a few of us have children here. If you give a child a present, you're not grateful, you don't feel like giving them anything else. So why would the universe, God, or even your subconscious make you feel worthy to receive anything else if you're not grateful for everything that's happened in the past and everything that you've created already? Second, G, giving to others is the greatest gift you can give to yourself. And in terms of business, the greatest gift you can give is your ear. In business, remember, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and we were made in that way. So why not listen more? I actually had one client, I'm getting sidetracked here, but I've got to tell this. When's the CIO of Merrill Lynch? He was my boss's, the CEO of Threadneedle at the time, old colleague, they were mates. And I went into him and I actually spoke to him and he said to me, you know what, Doug? And he started telling me all about, these different types of beta trades and alpha trades. And a lot of it, I had no flipping clue what he was talking about. But I sat there and, very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. And at the end of it, I just talked back what he was saying, listened intently. And I think I spoke for 5 minutes and he spoke for 55. And he rang my boss after. He said, to say, Bob, Doug is the most intelligent salesperson I've ever met. 5 minutes talk. Anyway. So giving to others is the greatest gift you can give to yourself, and giving your presence and your ear is that. In terms of business. L is for letting go. We all sometimes get anger, resentment, lack of forgiveness, and guilt. If you can let go of those energies in motion, you can focus on your fabulous future rather than being the energies of the past and get triggered sometimes. E is for energy, which I'm talking about, but E is also for emotional intelligence, which is awareness. I do a whole course on that, which is for another time. Also conscious communication. I do a whole course on that. And remember, your words are your wand, ladies and gentlemen. The sentences you say can sometimes be the sentences you condemn yourselves and others too. My dad told me I was a pain in the arse. I had 2 operations there. He told me I was a pain in the back. I broke my back. He told me I was a pain in the neck. I knocked the vertebra out of place. And my mum said one time, make sure you put your coat on, otherwise you might catch pneumonia. And I caught pneumonia within a month. So be very careful what comes out of this mouth. It's energy. I always say that thoughts are energy. Speech is energy. Thoughts lead to speech. Speech leads to actions. Actions leads to habits. And habits leads to destiny. So start with a positive thought and you'll end with a positive destiny. A is authenticity. I believe that you chose this spacesuit, this bodysuit, whatever you want to call it. So be you. It's the most authentic version of you, and people will feel that. And when you come from that true place, trust and rapport will be created more quickly, and you will get better business in your organization and with your clients. Finally, M is meaning. And in terms of meaning, is the meaning of life making loads of money? Well, in one way it can be, because it means if you make loads of money, you can help more people. But at the end of your life, like Steve Jobs says, I don't think that's really going to matter. Because when you're 95 years of age, looking back at your life, are you really going to look back at how much money you made? I don't know. I have a feeling you might look back at how many hearts you might have touched. And that comes down to very simple things, which are all free, like kisses you give, hugs you hold, and kind words that you pass on. So if you go out there and give loads of kisses, loads of hugs, loads of kind words, I reckon you're going to live a life of love with lots of vibrant energy. I'm done. Any questions? Yes, sorry.
I want to ask you a question about the goal settings in the business.
So the what, sir?
Goal settings.
Goal settings, yes.
Yeah. So I personally, I have 5 years goal setting.
Yep.
And so I found in my first year, it's fine, but it's not to my the way I set it up and I want to build it is not my that's what the problem is. I can do it, but it's the time management. That's how I can be more productive in a short period of time.
Yeah.
This is possible to get there, but time wise, I'm running a lot behind. It should be.
So I do a whole workshop on goal setting. So just for the people online, the question was goal setting. How can we achieve our goals? How can we set goals? How can we target them and actually make them happen, especially with time being key? Is that the question, basically? Yeah, perfect. Okay, so the first thing and the most important thing I think a lot of people fail to do in the morning is when you are going to do anything in life is to set your goals out, obviously for the long term, but also have shorter term goals, as I was talking about, for the quarter, the month, the week, and put activity plans in place that lead you towards those goals. But then every single day, it's so important. I find that if you can sit there, write all your goals down, your tasks down, everything you're going to do during the day, and almost just for 5 minutes, visualize them. Oops, someone's fallen down upstairs. If you can just visualize them in terms of what you're going to do and visualize them in a state of celebration as if energetically you've already achieved them, it's amazing how that energy brings you to the right place, the right time, and help and get done. I know that sounds a bit woo-woo, but it actually works. And I was sitting with a guy who's he's a Portuguese guy, he's worth about £1 billion. And I said to him, do you have a morning routine? He goes, no, I don't. He says, well, I do one thing. He goes, I come on and lie on my couch, close my eyes, and I've done all my tasks written down already. I just visualize them and I visualize my long-term goals, and it seems to just happen. Because visualization is putting into the subconscious as if you already achieved what you want to achieve. So by doing that, it's a very powerful tool, I find myself, and I know lots of other people I found as well, to do that. Because if you think about it, you mentioned time. How much time here do you reckon, guys, and this is for everybody, this is not just you, Max, how much time here do you reckon you spend wasting about people that piss you off, or things you've done wrong, or negative energy? Anybody? Just tell me how much time, just during a day. Anybody? If you add it all up, what do you reckon it probably is? It's probably an hour, maybe 2 hours a day. We go, why did that person do that? Or why did that I do this? We waste so much time. So I know this sounds funny, but in terms of time management, if you can work on your energy, but also your emotional intelligence, so you have a look at what are your self-aware triggers, what are your self-aware parental programs. So what really triggers you, and then by understanding those and having an understanding and awareness and acceptance that are in you, then you could use positive affirmations to get rid of them. So for example, if you weren't actively listening enough and you have to ask one of your subordinates, your team, can you repeat that again? You're wasting 10 seconds. You know, there's so many, how many people here have meetings they've been in corporate world that you think this is a flipping waste of time. We're just going around in circles. Yeah, we all have, right? But if there was much more targeted conversation, conscious communication, but also no arguments, because we always had my opinion, your opinion, and everything like that. But if we can get to it quicker, faster, and understanding that you ask, I always say that opinions are a bit like arseholes. We all have one, right? But sometimes we don't want to hear it. So ask for permission to give it, and also ask questions to understand rather than making assumptions about the other people. And don't take things personally. Anyone read the 4 Agreements book? Anybody read that? Fantastic. And 2 of the things he says in there is don't take things personally, and never make assumptions, and always turn up as your best, and be very conscious about the words you use. So you will save a lot of time if you do that. But also having a very clear plan and putting a vision board in place as well can be very powerful. And actually, I'm really into energy and the woo-woo stuff as well as the business stuff. I bring the woo-woo into the business, and a lot of people are much more accepting of it now. I mean, I've had CEOs and CIOs who go, this is a load of bollocks to begin with. But then when they do it, they go, actually, this has really helped me. Thank you. So I have a vision board. And actually, one of my coaching clients is Tazy Valenza, who is a Star Wars character in the real Star Wars film. And she was in Star Trek as well. And she put a vision board up of the house she wanted. She saw it on a estate agent board like 15 years ago. And I coached her husband as well, Harvey Stern, who's a real estate guy. He's got like 2.2 billion or something like that. And Harvey said to me in one of the coaching sessions, we were talking about vision boards. He said, do you know what? I went into the garage the other day and I found Tazy's old vision board. And I looked at it, I never even realized the house she put on there 15 years ago is the house we're living in now. It's really powerful because it goes into the subconscious. And that's why affirmations are so important. I mean, let's face it, who would agree? You're probably the person who talks to yourself most, yeah? We'd all agree with that? Why make it negative? Sometimes it actually can be the most intelligent conversation you have. but actually, you know, you might as well make it positive as well at the same time. So I use affirmations quite often. Ghosh and I will joke when we're going to bed, we go, oh, we didn't do our I am grateful sentence. Okay, let's do it now. I am grateful that I'm an inspirational speaker, speaking to millions of people around the world, being paid millions of pounds, dollars, and euros for it. So I always say, when you get your goal as well, I have a board at home, and Ghosh will tell you this, I have a board at home, a whiteboard, and I have all my I am grateful statements on it. So it'd be like, and you have to be very specific as well, because a lot of people say, I've just written a book called Charge Yourself Up for Success, as I've got testimonies from 3 New York Times bestsellers. And it's not out yet, it's out next month. But anyway, sorry, it's a bit of a promotion there. But so going back to the affirmations, so if you can put down, I am grateful, and make it very specific, because some people put, I'm grateful that I'm a best-selling author. And then they tweak the Amazon and they become a best-selling author for like 10 minutes or something like that. And they got what they wanted. But you need to be very specific. So I would say, I am grateful that I'm an international best-selling author, having sold 100 million copies of my book to touch 100 million hearts and change their lives for the better and get paid for it. So I'm also adding value to somebody else. John Mattone was on my radio show. John Mattone, anybody know John Mattone? No? John Mattone was actually Steve Jobs' executive coach. And John said to me on the radio show that he wrote a book 25 years ago about leadership and sales with the premise of making money, getting on stages and selling books. He sold bugger all books, hardly any. Anyway, his son then got to 18, was going to university, he was going to go and follow his dad's path. And he reread the book and he thought, you know what, this book could actually add value to my son. I'm going to put it out again, but this time he put it out with the energy behind it, the thought pattern behind it, that he just wanted to add value to someone like his son. Put the book out without any tweaks, because 15 years ago, I don't think you could do this. He became a New York Times bestseller. Steve Jobs read the book, brought him into Apple, and the rest is history. And now he speaks all over the world, including here in Dublin at the Pendulum Summit 2 or 3 years ago as well. So have the energetic intention of whatever you do of adding value first, giving to others first, and then you'll receive as well. And you'll have more energy. So in terms of time management, it's energy. It's more about energy management. It's all about emotional intelligence. And Ghosh and I both do courses together in terms of emotional intelligence as well, to try and get you into the best, so that 1, you're more conscious about your words, get the best words out. 2, on top of that is that awareness, so that you can then change. 3, you have more empathy towards other people, so you understand their perspectives. 4, you understand, they talk about emotional intelligence, about motivation. You get motivated every day. I prefer the word inspiration because motive comes from a reason which is outside of you. Inspiration comes from the word in spirit, which means it comes from inside you, place of love. So make sure that you're actually doing something that you really truly love. And if you mix all those together, you can improve your emotional intelligence. So you'll spend less time with testing people. And the last part, sorry, is self-regulation, to create win-win in the interactions that you have with other people, but also the win-win in the interactions with your own self as well. Because we waste so much time on our own self, thinking about things that if we could just let them go of, we could focus on the things that we want rather than what we don't want. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Brilliant. Any other questions?
A question here. Do you have a morning routine to set your day up?
So the question is, do you have a morning routine? And I do, to set myself up. So number 1, gratitude statements. Literally just write 3 or 4 down. I normally say I'm very grateful for my kids, I'm grateful for Ghosh, I'm grateful for my job, I'm grateful for the clients coming to me, all the things that I have. So I always say, when you put I'm grateful statements, put them in for what you have, but also then what you want, as if you already have them. I'm not a biblical man, but it does say pray in gratitude. And it also says use the I am statements all the time as well, because it's quite powerful as well. So that's the first part. Meditation. So also then I'd write down everything that I need to do for the day. And I'd sit there, close my eyes and visualize each individual task, visualize my longer task and everything like that. So I also quite often do the Wim Hof technique as well, which is if you don't know Wim Hof, W-I-M-H-O-F, look them up, it's great. It kind of invigorates you. And actually, it oxidizes the body because you get loads of oxygen in there. And then it alkalines the body as well at the same time. And they say in an alkaline body state, it's much harder to get any diseases. So it's really cool. So that's something I do as well. I went for a run this morning as well. So I always tend to go for a run. What else? A cold shower. Ghosh will tell you, my son now copies that. And, quite often Ghosh has gone in there and the shower will still be on cold. We might hear a little scream going on. And actually, quite often when I'm in the cold shower, and Ghosh will tell you this, that quite often when I'm in the shower, I do my I am grateful statements out loud as well. Because I can tell you something, when you're standing in the freezing cold, the emotions come out much more. So I'm like, I am grateful that I'm an inspirational speaker. And I'm like shouting it out loud. Oh God, here he is again, kind of thing. But it brings the emotions out, because if you sit there and go, I am grateful that I did it. I am grateful. There's no emotion there. There's no energy and motion there. And we need to get the emotions, the energy going in order to create what we want in life. So that's something else I do. Obviously, eat well. I believe that, this body of yours, the skin is coming out all the time. You probably hoover up your skin cells every single week. So you might as well make sure that you eat right, because everything actually regenerates. They say something like after like 7 years, I think your entire body regenerates. So I've heard. I don't know whether that's true or not. But based on that premise, you are what you eat. So eat well, eat organic. I tend to have oats or something like that with some, fruit in the morning and stuff like that, and tend to have very healthy stuff during the day. Coach is very much into the healthy stuff, so she's and then also try and be healthy. Try and reduce the alcohol, everything like that, so that you're in the best possible state energetically. I always say, and this is a woo-woo thing, so I apologize, but I always say that alcohol can sometimes lower your frequency, and your vibe is your tribe. So you might as well get yourself with the highest frequency as well. So that's very important as well. And being authentic is so important, because I find there's a lot of people on Instagram and everything like that that have thousands of followers and they're all fake. I am not. I have all my people are proper people. And because of that, it's amazing, because I get to hang around with you kind of cool people, because I bring in authentic people as well. And people tell me in Ireland, sometimes they say, oh, you know what? They struggle to get paid. I said, well, I always get paid. And the reason why I always get paid, because I'm authentic. I'm trustworthy. And if you give out trust, you get trust back as well. So that's the kind of morning routine. There's a few other things that I might add in from time to time, but that's basically it. Any other questions? Yes, at the back.
Thank you, Dawn, for that. I'm glad I came. I thought I was not going to make it. Everything you said, you spoke about, really hits me here, because I've been trying to start a business for the past 10 years. It's been in the cold, like in the cooler. But how do you, I'm going to make it this personal, okay? How do I start? How do I get the motivations to start this business? Because especially when you've been through trauma of different kinds,
Sure.
And you're trying to get yourself up, you're trying to do something for yourself. Everything you said, I know I have them here. I've tried to practice some of them, but I just don't see myself doing anything because of the challenges of life that I've been through, recently. But I know I want to do something. I have a business idea that I want to start. So how do I get myself motivated to start?
Okay, so for those of you online, the question is, how does this, what's your name? Sorry. Abby. How does Abby get herself to start her business? She's been thinking about a business for the last 10 years. How does she actually get it up and running? How does she motivate herself? And just so you know online as well, Abby was saying that she's gone through some trauma, she's had a tough time and everything like that. So she needs to be able to motivate herself to get going. So my answer to this, firstly, Abby, I'm going to say, firstly, I'm sorry for whatever trauma you've been through, because I've been through trauma. It's not nice. I had sleepless nights. I'm sure you've had some sleepless nights. So from my heart to your heart, I give you a big hug. That's the first thing I'll say. And secondly, though, I would say, when you are 95 years of age, I don't believe in hell, but I do believe hell is meeting the person that you could have been at the end of your life. And I want you to put yourself into the future of that person. And I want you to look at the person that you know you can be, unless you take action. Because dreams without action are just dreams. And you need to take massive action. And I'm just going to say, for those of you who've been through trauma, and I've been through trauma, I've discussed it earlier on, I truly believe having, and this is woo-woo, but I'm going to tell you anyway, right? And apologies if you're not into this kind of stuff. I had a near-death experience. I died, I was encapsulated, this amazing feeling of love, energy, connection. I believe, this is just my belief, right? You can think it's bollocks if you want. I think that we come down here to learn, to grow, to evolve, to become better versions of ourselves, and then teach others to be able to go through the same experiences in an easier fashion, to raise consciousness, because we're all connected, we're all interconnected through energy. But I also believe that we come back down here again and again and again. Because if you're a spiritual being living a physical experience, why would you just come down like this ugly fucker? I'd want to come down like this or this or this, or you guys, and experience different perspectives on the same thing and play this game of life out to understand how it feels to be you or you or you. So in order to do that and have that sense of understanding in our head, maybe that this game of life, we test ourselves each individual time to go through a lot of crap to see if we can still come out the other side as our best version of ourselves. And what I'd say to you, Abby, is that you're probably a very evolved soul. Because if you've come into this world and you have been tested with trauma, maybe pat yourself on the back. Because maybe you've played this game of life so often that you're testing yourself like a PlayStation game to a higher level to see if you can still get through all this crap and come out the other side and turn your mess into a message and give it meaning in some way or form. And for you, I would say, if you've got something that's some kind of trauma or that you can help other people to learn from what you went through, if you don't do that, you might have to come back down and do this whole level all over again and play Groundhog Day. And I'm sure you don't want to do that. So in order to take action is to get a very clear plan. Put the plan in place. Get it in your head. What are the steps? Like if it's a big plan and it's a bit daunting, put the goal in place, but make sure it aligns to your heart as well. And then break the steps down into mini steps that lead you towards that path. I had a guy called Liam Ryan who was on my radio show, and he had a huge tumor in his head. And he was told he had like a month to live or something like that. And they said, look, if you can do this, if you do this operation, you might die. And if you do even if you don't die, you probably never walk again. And he thought to himself, right, he thought to himself that he'd been alive for 40 years at the time, he had a really nice life, nice family, and he was grateful for everything. And the second thing was, so he first had gratitude. Secondly, he lost fear of death. And thirdly, he made peace with dying as well. But he had faith. And he went to the operation, he came out, and he's an amazing character, I have to say. And he wanted to walk again. He'd done a marathon before, he wanted to do another marathon. And he couldn't even walk. But he put baby steps in place. Take one step a day. Or maybe just move the leg first day, then the other leg. Take one step, take 2 steps, take 3 steps. And he's done a marathon since as well. So all I say is just break it down into smaller steps. And if you've got a big mission, why not just do a small mission? Why not do what I said at the start? Why not put a little video together or a talk together, put it online, give it out for free if you want, something like that. It might get you clients. People come and contact you and ask you and say, Abby, I've had the same thing. Can I have a session with you for 50 euros, 100 euros, 150 euros, 450 euros, 1,000 euros? You never know when you write your book. And that way you can utilize that to help other people, but always have the premise. And remember that your information, not handing it out to somebody else, could mean that somebody else like you is going through something that you can help them with. And if you think that we're all interconnected, that makes you kind of responsible. So we're all responsible trying to help other people in some way or form. And when you have that goal, that vision in your head, then it changes the way you think about it. Because you'll find, how many people here will do something for somebody else, but they won't do it for themselves? Yeah, we all do, right? So change it. It's not for you. It's for that someone like you who may be going through what you went through, or went through it, or about to go through it. Does that help? Perfect. Any other questions?
We have a question here. Can you synthesize 3 best practices for use social media in order to gain corporate clients?
Okay, well, the first one, LinkedIn, by far the best, because LinkedIn is much harder for people to fake it. And also LinkedIn as well, if you fake it on LinkedIn, recruiters will find out and you'll never get into a multinational. So it's always, I always look at people and they have like, there's one person, I'm not gonna mention their name, but they have like 13 million followers on Instagram and they have none on LinkedIn. Whereas if you look at Tony Robbins, he's got about, 2 million on Instagram. He's got 2 million on Facebook. He's got 2 million on LinkedIn. He's legit, right? And he's fantastic. Anyway, so LinkedIn, the best thing to do is try and target, like I said, target your avatars and then link in with them. Think of now we've opened up since the pandemic. You don't have to think about, okay, who's in Dublin or who's in London or whatever. You can think about who's across the world that I want to connect with on LinkedIn and connect with them and then follow them, mention them on their posts, their great posts, blah, 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 blah. And then maybe if they get a promotion, a birthday or something like that, send them a message, connect with them in some way or form. And once you connect to them, if you get something back, say, look, that's what I said to Angus. I said, look, Angus, this is Angus Hegarty, obviously, of Dell from earlier on. I said, Angus, congratulations on your promotion. If there's anything I can do to help you in any way or form, I'd be delighted to meet with you. And by the way, here's a video I did at the National Workplace Wellbeing Conference recently that just showcases something I've done in the last 2 weeks. And if you can do that with anybody whatsoever, where you're adding value to them, you're congratulating them, blowing smoke up their ass, whatever it is, then you might just find you can create a connection with them. But I do say, like social media, there's billions of people on social media. Pick up the phone or send them an email. Don't just expect, because you put this amazing video, because I put these amazing videos and I think, oh, that's brilliant, and everything like that. And then bugger all happens. You need to make it happen, as I was saying earlier on. And that's where you really need to make sure that you get on social media. So number one, LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you can follow them for birthdays, follow them for promotions, and maybe in the promotion side of things, you can say, wow, congratulations to your promotion. If there's anything I can do to help you to get that next promotion, let me know. And also people change their titles as well. So they might change to different things. They might get, when you get to our age, sometimes, sorry, my age, you sometimes get, new NEDs, non-executive director ideas. And, that comes up. So you can say, congratulations, I see you've moved in with Microsoft. If there's anything I can do there, or if anybody can introduce me to you, blah, blah, blah. So, and the other thing I remember is someone said to me, so Lisa Nichols, who was in The Secret film, she's a New York Times bestseller. She was, is a very great person. Someone came up to me and said, can you introduce me to Lisa? And I said, look, Lisa has loads of different people. She's on social media. Obviously, she's got like 2.6 million followers, I think, or something like that. It's testimony in my book. And they said, I've got this great product. Can you introduce me? And I said, hey, but what can you do for Lisa? Because you're just trying to use Lisa to sell your product. Now, when I met Lisa, I got her on my radio show first. She was doing something over in the States. She invited me over, and I went from Ireland to Florida. I paid for myself and went to her event. And then she asked me on stage. Normally I speak professionally on stage, but I did it for free for her. Added value, told her 1,000 people there how great she was. And she was one of my inspirations for becoming an entrepreneur and moving out of the corporate world. And then I had her on the radio show again. Then I actually helped her get a few gigs that were worth about 30,000 for her. So I'd added a lot of value to her. So don't think just because, on social media that you might know somebody that you can ask them for something. Give first, do their courses, show interest in them, and then you'll find that they'll show interest in you. So that's one of the first things I'd say. Facebook ads as well, very good. So Facebook ads, what you can actually do. So say, for example, there was the guys on Clubhouse have heard this story before. So because one of my friends has done this, said this before. But Facebook ads, for example, if you're a wedding photographer, for example, you could go onto Facebook and have a look and target the people who've just got engaged. You know the way people can change their, single to engaged, to married, to divorced, to separated, whatever it is. So you can target people who've just got engaged, and you can contact them, and you can actually target on Facebook ads, people who've just got engaged, target them. And then you can utilize that ad to then go onto there and send something saying, I'm a wedding photographer. And so that's one thing, is to specifically target people on there as well. The other thing in terms of YouTube, YouTube, for example, if you're putting something on YouTube, say, let's think about someone like Tony Robbins. He has a particular YouTube video with a particular title. If you're going to do a video, why not do something similar titled? So that then, the way YouTube afterwards says, the suggested videos you can watch afterwards. And because you've got a similar title, you might end up finding that your comes after, Tony Robbins or whoever it might be. So, who's the guy who wrote, the guy who's done the most amount of views of his TED talk? No, it's Sir Ken Robinson. I think he's got 72 million views. So you could have a look about what his title is and then make your speech about something similar. He's got 72 million views. People are still looking at it every day. And hey, presto, you never know, you might get a few views as well. So it's a good way of thinking about it in terms of Facebook, in terms of LinkedIn, and in terms of that as well. The other thing I'd say is a lot of people don't think of our age when you get to, sorry, I'm saying my age, when you're mid-40s, you don't think of using TikTok. But actually TikTok is a fantastic platform to be able to talk about, and do videos, and people flick through. And obviously, if you can put something on there, you get views. I've got one TikTok video, which I talked about one of my clients who went through, she was about to commit suicide. And it was a live virtual, it's on Clubhouse, guys. And she came on and she said she was going to commit suicide. And I managed to turn around that very moment on there. She said she hadn't been, she'd been in bed for 3 days, 2 days no food, 1 day no water, and she was going to commit suicide. And I don't know if you were there, Carmen, at the time, I don't know, but you were, yeah, Carmen was there at the time. And I actually said, right, I don't know where this came from, but I said, I'm going to make you, are you on for playing a game? And she said, yeah, because she was crying out for help. I said, look, if you play this game with me, you're going to win $1,000. And Clubhouse, by the way, is a fantastic tool because you can go on Clubhouse and you can speak to people. A lot of the people who are on there online now came from Clubhouse because I spoke to them over the last few days. They like what I said. Thank you very much. And they've come to listen. So anyway, I ended up talking to this lady. I said, look, I want to play a game with you. And if you play the game, you're going to win $1,000, a prize worth $1,000. And she goes, what's that? It's going to be a consultation for free with me. And she was like, okay, great. And I said, I want to make you the Clubhouse Gargle champion. I don't know where that came from. I certainly didn't think about it at the time. But the reason why I came up with the Gargle champion, it was because I wanted to get her to drink water and I wanted to make her laugh. So next minute, she said, okay. She gets up, she's getting out of bed. She pours a glass of water. She's got water in her hand for the first time in a day or 24 hours. I said, just take a gulp to make sure the mic's working. So she takes a gulp. And I said, I didn't hear that. I did. But I said, I didn't hear that. Can you do another one? Another gulp. She's taken 2 gulps of water. So okay, I heard that. Right, give us your first gargle. She's like, oh. I said, come on, you can do better than that. Come on, girl, you do better than that. So giving a large, and everybody start mic clapping and cheering on the stage. There's like 15 people on the stage, 50 people in the room. Next minute, she's laughing. So automatically, she's changed her own state, and it went from there. So there's a fantastic opportunity there on that. And then I met with her, and now she's come onto social media and gone public about it, about what I did for her, and it was fantastic. Now, so the other thing on social media in terms of Clubhouse is a fantastic opportunity to get up there and practice your speaking, practice your communication skills, and make contacts throughout the world. I would never have had Tazy Valenza as a client or her husband as a client or loads of London clients if it wasn't for Clubhouse. Clubhouse is a fantastic app that you can utilize to meet people right across the world. So I'd highly recommend, and you can go on there and do rooms, you can do presentations like this, everything like that, which is really, really good. And you could actually, what you could now, obviously this is a paid event, so I haven't done it, but you could, if you're doing a free webinar, you could do it live on Facebook, live on Instagram, live on LinkedIn, all at the same time. And you can have your phone here and be on Clubhouse at the same time as well, giving the same presentation. So that would be probably I've gone over 3 tips, but I hope that's enough in terms of that.